What's happening 2017 Honda Odyssey all-wheel drive owners, and it's time for you to do brake pads or brake pads and rotors, which I would recommend. So we're in the rear right now, and what you're going to need is to obviously get the wheel off. That's the start. And then once you get the wheel off, you need to get the caliper bolt loose. So there's one bolt here. So you will need a 10mm socket, I think that is. Let me just double check. 12mm, sorry, 12mm socket of some type. I'm using a 3/8 air gun because that's my choice of tools. So once you get that bolt out, there's two 17mm bolts. So now I move on to a 3/8 drive deep on electric ratchet. All right, so once you get those out, all right, I'm going to show you how you don't have to take this upper bolt out. So let's get in here. This is my slow snap-on 3/8 drive ratchet. It makes plenty of torque, but it's too slow for me. I have ADHD and nothing's fast enough. All right, so now that that's out, so 12mm, but you don't have to take that one out. And I'm just gonna drop my bolts on the ground because that's how I do things. And then you're gonna lift the caliper off. And then now you can take this apart, grease your slider, wire brush and grease your hardware. And you're gonna need a caliper tool of some type. In the old days I used a screwdriver, but now that I have tools, the proper tools, this is my tool of choice here, okay? And then you're gonna push the caliper back, and you don't have to bleed the brakes. It's not necessary unless you're introduced air into the braking system. You do not have to bleed the brakes. When you have to bleed the brakes is if you change the caliper or brake hose or introduce air into the braking system. You can bleed the brakes for maintenance reasons, because the brake fluid that's in here, believe it or not, is no longer doing its job that it was when it's brand new, meaning it has moisture and contaminants and some yucky shit inside of there, which affect how the brake fluid actually can dissipate heat. So for maintenance reasons, you should be bleeding your brakes and putting fresh fluid in at the wheels. So that is important, although you don't have to, but I am recommending it. You should do it. Or just once everything's back together, you do it this way. All right, check it out. Is once everything's back together, go inside the car, pump the brake pedal up, start it, pump it up, make sure that everything's bolted right, or you're gonna destroy your brake job. And then shut it off and open your bleeders, okay? And open the cap, take the cap off the master cylinder and let it gravity bleed just a little bit. But make sure your master cylinder is full. A gravity bleed will let the old fluid out and new fluid will flow in. Simply close the bleeder. You don't have to have two people or a vacuum sucky tool to bleed your brakes. Do this by yourself. It also is important, I will tell you, is to open the master cylinder cap, take it off. So when you push back the fluid in the hydraulic system, that sometimes it could damage the ABS unit or RABS valves or combination valves or ABS units and master cylinders. It's very unlikely that it will happen, but yes, it has happened. And it can happen. Or you could open a bleeder and do that, but then at that point, you can open the bleeder to push it back. It will push the old fluid out the bleeder if the bleeder actually opens, and then bleed the brakes after that. However you choose. I push them back. You notice I didn't open the master cylinder cap. I'm not really worried about a car like this, a Honda, even though it's risky and it can happen. That's it. That's what you're going to need to do your rear brake job on your Honda Odyssey.